So everything I'm about to say is just a story, and it's going to be different for everyone. So I feel like when we grow up in an environment where we're not encouraged to look within, we're not encouraged to just question, like, what feels right for you? We're not told that I don't know. I don't know what's best for you. We're mainly told, I know what's best. Follow me. This is right. You're wrong. And we completely lose touch. We stop listening to ourselves. We stop listening to the body. And then we listen to what the mind is saying. What the mind is saying is happening. And the mind is naturally a problem solver. It tries to keep you safe, but its way of keeping you safe is out of the body, is away from here. And it wants to fix things externally. So then we get into the habit of trying to fix things from the idea of what we think they are, but that's not actually what's happening. So it's in a way it's a losing battle. You can never get permanency from the idea of something. Like you can't hope and dream and will it to be a certain way and to stay like that forever. It's just not possible. And when you see the devastation that maybe you could achieve it momentarily, but inevitably it will change. When you feel the hurt and pain and heartbreak of that enough over and over, maybe then you come back to what simply is, what's simply here. And what the body really longs for is just rest, to stop trying to prove itself by doing and achieving and becoming. So I remember a time where I was like deeply suffering, just lost in trying to be perfect, trying to control everything, trying to appear a certain way. And it was so painful. I could feel the fakeness. I could feel the trying and the effortfulness of everything I was doing. And it was exhausting. And what I eventually turned to was yoga. Like that was my way instead of partying and drinking. And I thought yoga was a healthier option. So I fully dove into that. It became my thing. It became another identity, but it was healthier for the moment. But inevitably, a lot of suffering came from that as well. Because I tried to manipulate the body, tried to be perfect. I had to do it. if I didn't do it, it was another way to punish myself, to think that I'm still not good enough. So then my appetite for yoga just kind of fell away. There was just too much around it that became a tightness, that became a should, that became restricted and constricting. It wasn't free anymore. So in this apparent journey, I just kind of let it go. And so this is just my assumption of what was happening. But, when you stop moving from a place of having a goal, having a certain purpose that gives the body motivation to do a lot, get up in the morning. So when that's diminishing, the way in which the body is functioning is changing. It's not able to manufacture energy that way. It's not able to feel motivated and ambitious in that way because you naturally kind of just see that I'm kind of tired of getting in that way or believing that that will be the answer. That will be my savior. That will give me completion or fulfillment or satisfaction. I kind of see that it's a pointless chase. It's not that the chase doesn't continue because it's now habituated in the body. Now it's just energetic in the body and it's seen to be that way. So it's actually not really a problem that it's running still. But perhaps eventually it kind of softens because it's not fed in the same way. And in that softening, what the body is motivated to do, who it's motivated to see and interact with, subtly, slowly, it could start to diminish. It loses interest in what it was really interested in before. And it could be really alarming because it could be a lot of stuff: drinking, food, movies, music, spiritual books. I'm not saying that will happen for everyone, but it could diminish here and there. And then there could be a feeling of like, what now? All there is to do is nothing. And you're so not used to that. You're used to being consumed by things, enticed by things, distracted by things. So naturally, you're more bare. It's just what is. And then you kind of taste the beauty of it. You feel uncluttered. You feel free of the need for any of that. And I'm just kind of summarizing what seemed to happen. I don't know. Maybe it's been like, I don't even know anymore. Like, I don't know when the falling away started to happen. So then now the body functions from a completely different place where there's nothing that is trying to get anything for itself anymore. It doesn't really have stakes in the game anymore. It doesn't have an end goal. It's more about what does the body need right now? How can I support it? Because all that matters is the health of the body, really. That's what it comes down to, kind of, because that's what's here, the health of the body. Like, if it doesn't feel good, it just isn't pleasant, isn't preferred. So, naturally, that's just prioritized. Naturally, that's what's important. And then you could see why the person is able to disregard the health of the body, disregard what the body is actually feeling and telling you. Instead, it's able to push forward, keep going, keep doing, keep achieving, keep proving. And then it's obvious how exhausting and harmful that is to the body, how much you're putting onto the body, how much you're forcing the body. So there was kind of it wasn't very linear. It was kind of, it came and went. But there was a period where I was really tired. The body was so tired and it was kind of alarming. Um, so then, my friend suggested yoga and I was kind of reluctant to do it in the traditional way. I was doing it in my own way, but to actually do it in a sequence, I just haven't done that in a while. And I did it for the first time in maybe 2 years. I don't really know. And for the first time, I felt the body. For the first time, I didn't have to force myself to be present anymore. It was just breath. I could feel the blood moving, circulating. I could feel the body coming alive. It just felt like for the first time, movement for the first time. And um, this isn't quite the right word, but I think I just felt so much gratitude where the body was just so thankful that just started bawling, crying afterwards. Um, and it wasn't done from a place of these are the movements that I should be doing. These are the hand movements that I should be doing. It just felt like, oh, it genuinely did feel like the body was so sacred. And I know that sounds spiritual, but I don't mean it that way. It's just so amazing. It's just so beautiful. And we disregard it, understandably so. We can't help but do that because we're so far removed. We have to relearn or unlearn the ways in which we neglected the body. But yeah, none of that is your fault. It just makes sense. We're a product of the environment. We're so encouraged to not listen, to not do the simple thing. We're used to complexity. So the simplest thing becomes really the hardest thing. It's just veiled, it's hidden, and it's unfortunate because we then wouldn't have to learn how to be kind to ourselves and others. It would just happen. No thought needed. So I think that's why when we're on a spiritual path, you know, I think we're trying to get in touch, back in touch with it, but it becomes another way of being. It becomes another identity. It becomes another restriction naturally, inevitably. becomes another dogma. And so, what I see from what happened here, again, it's going to be different for everyone, but I had to allow myself to feel the hurt and the pain of living that way, the exhaustion of living that way. I had to allow myself to feel betrayed by life, by everyone, by society, by my mom and dad, by my friends, by myself. Because they didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. I couldn't have known. Only through deep suffering do you finally stop. And that's also not true. I guess sometimes it can happen without deep suffering. I don't know. Anything's possible. But it just seems like it really is going into the unknown. We're not used to functioning this way. So it's not that you choose to function this way. It's really a collapse of how you used to function because you see it doesn't work. It causes a lot of suffering, causes a lot of pain and exhaustion, effortfulness. So if you want to interact, you're welcome to raise your digital hand and just take your time. There's no rush. Hi, Selena.
Hey, Suzanne.
Good to see you.
This thing. Last week, a week ago today, I spoke to Jim Newman on the phone, and he's a non-dual speaker who teaches the uncompromising message. And it was interesting for me because when I spoke to him, I was saying things like, I know I'm not my thoughts, and I know that there's no one here and things like that. I would tell him the insides of things that I know and that I've figured out. And he would just respond with, "You don't know that. You don't know that. No one knows that." Um, which I had heard enough of his videos that like I knew what he meant by that too. But it was so interesting when you were giving a little bit of a brief overview or an opening to this meeting. You were talking about how for a while after we get interested in this message, the personality or the conditioning kind of shifts into this, like it turns into a new story and a new journey and the new person. And that's something that I've written about many times. I'm for the last 6 years, I've read over 40 books on non-duality, and I have kept journals just writing down everything that comes to me. And the 40 book thing, that's not me bragging, that's me a little bit like desperate and ashamed of saying that, like I read over 40 books on non-duality in the last 6 years. And when you were talking about in this meeting that like it can turn into new personality, like I thought about that before and realized like, hey, my new personality, my new journey, the new conditioning seems to be really based on this stuff and this message. But for some reason, when you were talking about it at the beginning of the meeting, it just really hit me that I do not know. I don't know any of this. It's all I've studied for the last 6 years. It's I've put every egg into this basket. And like, I can talk about it pretty well, right? Like, I know all of the languaging and I even conceptually have some understanding of this stuff, which I think hurts me more than anything else. Um, so when you were talking about how you got interested in yoga and it just kind of happens on its own that, a new personality or a new path develops. For some reason, it was just like something inside of me was just like, oh God, I don't know. Like, none of this stuff that I've studied. It's like, I have a YouTube playlist that I put videos on called Awareness. And it's like, I don't know what awareness is, and what's really interesting is, I think the books I've liked the most are the ones that really try to like pinpoint directly for you, like, this is the difference between awareness and consciousness. This is, like going into as much as the mind can know about
Mm,
this. But for the last year, like, that's not the type of understanding I want, anyways. And I know that, like, intellectually, I'm really sick of that kind of understanding.
yeah, that makes sense.
And I feel like for months, the goal has been to get myself to see that I don't know. So it's interesting that when that happened earlier, like tears and fear is what pops up, even though it seems like that's what the personality wants, is to know it doesn't know.
Mm, exactly.
When that becomes reality, the body doesn't always respond to it the way you think it's going to.
Yeah, exactly.
And with all of this, I think there has also been the belief that, if I could just get myself to stick to one practice, or if I could just find the right message, or if I could just, there's a lot of grasping that I can see in this.
Mm. The grasping continues. It gets sort of like finer and finer. It will grasp until the very, very, there is no end. It'll just do it in subtler and subtler ways. Um, it's just what it does. It makes sense. It's understandable. It just wants to feel safe. And that's, that's okay.
I think for a long time on my path, I was looking for a final realization or a final recognition. And I think Jen calls it like you want to know enough so that you don't have to know anymore. Like you want to gain enough knowledge that you don't have to keep learning or gaining knowledge, but that's an illusion.
Mm.
And when I really, really was able to hear that message, I think the goal flipped on its head and it's like, well, okay, then I just want to recognize that there's no end goal. Like I want to see that for myself, which is still a destination, of course.
Mm. I know. You described it beautifully, how it's like every road is a dead end.
I really don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, it's a highly uncomfortable place to be. But to me, it's the most beautiful place you could be.
When there was a falling away for you or a release of that contracted energy or whatever you want to call it, did it feel like there was a person there that was able to know? Like, I feel like I kind of already know the answer to what you're going to say, but like, can you describe a little bit of what that was like for you, considering? I think it's probably my mind just wanting to understand something that can't be understood, how a recognition can happen for no one.
It's not a recognition. It really just feels like simply I don't know anything. Um, and there's no need to know anything.
More of a negation rather than an adding on to.
It doesn't feel like a negation. It feels like I don't know where I am. I don't know what I am. I don't know who I am. I don't know what this is. I don't know what is happening. I can kind of sense the insanity of everything, and I understand why it is the way it is. Um, Sometimes I don't want to take a part in it. Sometimes there's just this unknowable, this is not the right word, but like unknowable love of how much we deeply suffer and we don't know. And um yeah, I don't know what to do about it. Um yeah, there is nothing to do, but living just seems to happen. It doesn't matter if it happens. It's equally the same if this body dies. Um, it's not important that something happens.
All of what you just described sounds actually pretty close to where I'm at, so it sounds like I'm right on track. As far as the confusion and the not knowing who and not knowing where, like that's, I think I've heard you say in a video before that it can almost feel like, I don't think these were your words, but like getting stupider or not like getting further away from the truth, because in the beginning it feels like you definitely know or that you're getting close to something, and then that starts to really fall away. It's just being a story you're telling yourself.
Mm, yeah. The thing is, I think that there are, you could call it whatever you want, like seeings or realizations, or like things can be revealed to you, and there can be a wow to it, a sort of landing there for a second. But then it quickly goes. It's not a place to rest or land. It kind of just uncovers or unblocks something that was confined. So then what remains is more emptiness, more nothing. And there's nothing relating to that. There's nothing saying I got this or I achieved this emptiness, or um it just is what it is.
To me, that almost sounds like what I've experienced as spiritual insight, but the way that you're describing it makes it sound like spiritual, like insight, or you can drop the word spiritual, but insight without the need for it to stay, like without like the clinging that happens with insights. Do you still feel energetically held in a body?
Um
Physically is what I mean, not mentally, but physically. Is there still a feeling of being a person energetically in a body?
I don't even know what that means. Um um yeah, there's more of a not knowing of what this is. Like there can still be interpretations of, I said in the beginning, like I could feel the blood flowing, I could feel the heart, I could feel the breath. Um, but it does feel naked. It feels raw. It feels just that. Uh, and I've never felt it like that before. This does not feel like my body. Yeah, I don't really know what this is. I don't know how it's functioning. I don't know how it's working. It's pretty amazing.
Is there anything that you would suggest to someone who is in the spot I'm at? Or I guess another way to phrase it would be, it's like I can see the futility of trying to use any practice as a prescription. Like that seems really false, but it also seems like there's nothing else to do until I'm free. So I don't know, like a part of me feels like I need to just stop because I'm really, really draining my body and myself mentally. But like another part of me knows that like there is no other route for me. Like this is it. Um, and I've tried like stop seeking as a prescription too. So like I really don't know what to do. A part of me feels like maybe I just need to start, or this is what I have been doing, but like just continuing to go into the body because there's a lot less story there at least. At least then I'm with what's actually arising in the moment and I'm not going into any kind of mental, because I'm so sick of thinking about this stuff. I'm so sick of it.
Good. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I don't feel like this was really conscious for me. It felt like because nothing was a problem anymore. There were still like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like that. But bigger picture, there wasn't really a problem anymore. Nothing defined me in the way that it used to. So if there was a longing for something, it was finally fully able to be there. And like there was an enjoyment in expressing my truth, finally. Because I really had nothing to lose anymore. I'd rather be myself. I'd rather just speak my truth. I'd rather just say what's honestly here than to hide anymore. I'd rather everything else crumble. If I have to keep pretending, I'd rather everything else crumble. I don't, in a way, I just didn't care anymore. And it didn't come all at once. There was everything that prevented me from doing that before had to come to light.
It makes sense to me.
And I really did have to burn in it.
Thank you very much for talking to me.
Yeah. Does anything come up? Do you want to say anything else?
Yes, another big thing that I've been kind of focusing on, or looking at in myself is like, wanting to hear from you what I need to do next, or wanting to hear from another teacher. Or interestingly enough, when I've had oneness experiences, the mind coming in and saying, like, I want to talk to someone and like compare to see if this is what it is. And it's just really interesting to me that, like, with just earlier in this meeting, like knowing that you don't know, that like it just really makes you question authority, as far as like the authority you give other people and authority that I give myself, because like my mind has continuously told me that I understand certain things or that I get it, but on a deep level I know that I don't, because I wouldn't be psychologically suffering the way that I am if I, at least I don't think so. It just doesn't seem. So it's interesting. It's just making me realize that like any kind of answer from someone else, or any kind of recognition that I've tried to get from them and applied to myself, has never been the fulfillment I'm looking for. So
Mm, yeah, beautiful. That's powerful. Because it doesn't matter what anyone says to you.
yeah.
Yeah, no one's word is the truth. No one knows anything. The loyalty you may have had for others is not needed anymore. I noticed that it became more and more refined, like who I trusted, because ultimately you can't trust anyone. But the emptier someone is, the less motives they have, I would say the more you can trust, if you could trust anything, you know? So there was a leaning on that because this is a hard thing for the body to go through. But ultimately, that's not even needed anymore. And you're fully standing on your own, not in a I have the answer kind of way. It's just no one has the answer. And I'm fine the way I am. I'm okay.
For you, was the belief in your thoughts something that gradually lessened? Was it like a gradual, or was there something that seemed to really stop that in its tracks for you?
I think when I was more contracted, it felt like there were moments where I was able to see that I'm not my thoughts, or someone told me, and it was profound to be told that. um, More recently, it was able to be seen sometimes that it was just a thought arising from nowhere. I didn't produce it. Um, and then it kind of just came and went, like the waves and the tornado of the mind and how sticky it was. Sometimes it was more sticky than ever before. And I was completely in it, completely lost. But there was still somehow much more space than there was when I was just a tight contracted person, but I would still get completely lost. Um, yeah, and sometimes there would just be a collapse from the exhaustion or a grieving and mourning of something that I was trying to get. Um, and then the mind would just kind of soften for a while, but then the next thing would come up. Um, and this sounds like it's really time based, but that's the only way that I can talk because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if this happened. It just didn't matter anymore. Um, so now I can say it doesn't matter what thoughts come up because if they're not mine, if I didn't produce them, uh, where is the problem exactly? There were some more sticky thoughts that I was more ashamed of, let's say. They have more protection around them. They have more, this is bad. And that needed to really soften. That needed to be seen. Like the reason why that thought is here is because you're not separate from society and society is insane. So whatever you've been exposed to, like, why wouldn't you have a thought like that? It's so impersonal. So things like that needed to be seen and just allowed, not suppressed. And like, I wasn't fighting against it anymore because it was just so obvious. Like, yeah, so disturbing, but like I get it. We're exposed to such insanity. Um, yeah. And now, thoughts aren't a problem. It's there if it's there.
Seems like I can catch myself in stories pretty quickly now, and that psychologically I don't necessarily buy into stuff and can move on and catch it pretty quickly, but I have a lot of like energetic belief still in things because like I'll have thoughts pop up regarding shame and then my body will get incredibly activated, but my mind knows that that's really empty, that like that shame isn't, like it's not, that story isn't true, but I still have to feel the physical sensations that come along with that story.
Yeah.
All of what you said was reassuring to me because it's, I wouldn't say exactly what I'm going through or anything like that, but I hear a lot of similarities to the things I've gone through. And I think it feels like such a lone path that, like, just even knowing other people have been here, it doesn't, I think that's all I have. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. You're not alone. I see you. I hear you. I understand the struggle. And you've done amazing. You're doing tremendously. Thank you so much for sharing. It's very lovely.
There, can you hear me?
Yeah, good to see
Oh, you too. You too. I had a question about working with, or yeah, working with the body where there's uh, strong feelings coming up, like physical feelings. So, what I'm a little bit is a little strange for me. When I was 18, there was my kind of life was, or my family life was changing radically and dramatically and kind of spiraling down. And it was quite shocking. And I noticed that at night, I would wake up in the middle of the night with a deep burning, like felt like a physical burning in the center of my chest. And I would be up for hours. I would have to get up. I would have to move. I would just, it was really, really uncomfortable. And, but there was no emotion attached to it, right? There's no emotion that I could, at least back then. Well, there still isn't. So that pattern of energy is resurfaced again. And so I'm waking up and for hours having this kind of intense burning in the center of my chest. And uh, I can kind of, when it happens, I there's a focusing in on the sensations, and it's interesting to see the flow of sensations, as unpleasant as they are. And sometimes the unpleasantness even drops a little bit, but I've noticed things like, wow, it's actually extending into my arms and it's extending into my stomach. I never noticed that before. But what's not there, and I guess what I seem to want to, or seem to think is necessary, is an actual emotion or set of emotions. Because I guess I have this uh, learned uh, idea that emotions can process, or stored in the body and can process through. And there's a, if you kind of quote unquote allow the body to just, not kind of fight it, just let the emotions kind of come through. But and certainly I've felt that many times, but there's been an ability to identify the emotion or emotions. Oh, that's fear for sure. I mean, your whole body, you just sense it. Or that's sadness, deep sadness, or just a grieving, or just a natural crying or something. This is weird. It's just, I mean, it's I do not think it's physically related. Like, it's not heartburn or something like that. I mean, it happened when I was 18 and it's resurfacing again now. But it feels tough to quote unquote work with because I can't identify any emotions other than the kind of frustration and anger I have at not being able to not being able to sleep and being stuck with this feeling for a while physically. So I was just curious if you had any kind of um, thoughts or what comes up in response to that as far as working with that kind of thing in the body.
Mm, yeah. It's actually really beautiful that you can't identify exactly what it is, like mentally, because then it's the just the energy of it. I know it can be a little worrisome if you can't mentally figure it out. Um, and it kind of makes sense that if something was really unsafe when you were young and it created a body reaction, then you learn to live on top of that reaction. So the fact that you're feeling it now is a really good thing because it might be that there's an uncovering of what that was when you were 18, like almost going back in time, a reversal. Um, so in a way, it's a good thing, but I understand that it's highly uncomfortable and not preferred.
I mean, when it came up, I'm like, wow, this is real. I did. There was definitely a feeling of, and there still is of interest and like kind of amazement. Look at this pattern from when I was 18 just resurfaces, and I'm 64 and it's right there. It's like, wow. And I have, you know, whatever perspective tools, whatever to, I guess, work with it, so to speak, in a more healthy way than my 18-year-old self. But yeah, it is very confusing that because when there's an emotion, you can see it. I mean, it can be in full grip, and then there's just a natural passing. It could come right back, but there is this. You can see it kind of. Flowering and then kind of disappearing, and this is just when I pay attention to the energy, yeah, it moves, it increases, it decreases, but yeah, there's no emotional content around it. Um so I mean, not that I don't have any choice but to kind of it's there, so I can't really do anything about it. But yeah, I was just curious about this, what seems like just in my mind a disconnect between, it's like this orphan bodily sensation. Like the
Mhm.
bodily sensations were married to feelings. Like, okay, yeah, you stored this trauma in the body and it's sadness, and the sadness is coming up with the bodily sensations. Here, it's just the bodily sensation.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of gorgeous. Because that is kind of one of the ways in which perception changes, you know?
how do
It's
you mean?
it's less about the energy being married to a mental thought of what that is.
Uh,
Um, so it could be strange and alarming to not know exactly what that is, because before you kind of always felt like you knew what that is. You can make sense of
yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. Interesting.
So that happened more and more for me as well. Even with sadness, I could not label it as sadness anymore. And like I said, when I felt like gratitude, it was not gratitude. I don't know what it was. I could not define it in that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's helpful to hear.
But are there more stories around it that arise, like when it keeps you up at night, and then do you think about your childhood back then?
I don't. I mean, there's not at least from a feeling. There may be the mind saying, I mean, sometimes the mind says, I wonder if this was related to somehow this kind of collapse of my family structure, and for me, what was safe and secure and the filter that I saw the world through, that kind of collapsing, uh, not in a good way, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
uh, uh, but so I'll think back, okay, yeah, is there any relation, or is that the stuck energy somehow, whatever is behind that, the disappointment, grief, anguish, sadness, fear, I don't, mixture of everything maybe, is that what's stored in this bodily sensation? But there's not like a lot of storytelling, or there's just like, yeah, basically kind of dusting off the old mindfulness technique of just, having thoughts of, okay, let me I'm going to focus in on this. What does it really feel like? Ah, that's interesting. Not with the goal of getting anywhere really. Well, that's not true. Probably with the goal of getting rid of it, but uh
I know what you mean.
yeah. And it only happens at night. It only happens, I'll sleep an hour or two, and then it's like, I'm here, you know.
Mhm.
And I'm not terribly distressed about it. I mean, it is difficult. It's frustrating. The lack of sleep more than anything, but yeah, the main thing and I think you were helpful. Your discussion was that there didn't seem to be any kind of emotional content that I could, yeah, period, like that I could label at all, like not a hint of sadness or fear or frustration or whatever. But yeah, it clearly seems like the same energy that was there when I was 18.
Mm. You know, this is just guessing, but I think when we, as a child, when we have a certain idea of what our reality is, and then it's shattered by chaos in the household or something collapsing, that is super threatening for the body. It's such a um, challenging thing for a young body to go through, and what we're talking about now isn't that far away from that. It's quite similar because your perception of how the world is, in a way, it is being threatened by hearing this kind of stuff, that it's not really true reality. So your body could be reacting to that potentially.
Hmm, hmm,
Just a guess, you know,
yeah. Um, yeah, it could be.
because this isn't an easy thing to go through. It challenges your body because it did find safety in the known, in knowing that
Yeah.
what was happening, the solid belief in the story. So it's not that the story can't arise, and it can have relative truth in it, but when you hear that it's not the whole truth, it's not the actual truth, um it's pretty threatening for the body, for the nervous system, for the way in which it used to feel safe now is kind of crumbling a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that does make a lot of sense. And kind of there is, yeah, I guess, yeah. Part of me, yeah, I resonate with that, but I also like, whether it's the brain or the mind or what, but I guess I think back to, is it just that trauma that was just unresolved from childhood, or maybe it's both, or it doesn't really matter, I guess, in the end. But um,
it
yeah,
it could be both, because the trauma in this story, in this childhood, was brought up full on as my
Mm,
whole reality was being threatened, because you feel it to a different degree. Um, it's earth shattering in to a different degree. So that same trauma or story will arise. Um, I think that's quite normal.
mm. All
So
right. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks.
yeah. So basically your body is going through a lot, and um I've noticed that throughout this, I did really have to be tender with it, because even though mentally I didn't know exactly what was going on, I think there was a knowing that energetically the body is processing a lot.
Mm, yeah, yeah, makes sense. I mean, I was really, uh, yeah, a lot of this past year. I mean, I'm doing much better now, but yeah, I couldn't do anything. So there was a lot of, life was just full on, just not in control, just, physical, just month after month of just feeling so sick and not being able to, yeah, couldn't do much of anything, and no one knew anything, as I've talked about before, and that had a certain actually simplification of life, because it was like I couldn't do I didn't have energy to focus on anything, or to life became simple in a way, even though it was not fun. It was just okay, put the blanket on and get warm, and to stop the chills, take it off when I started to sweat, whatever. And as I got, but I didn't have any of the chest burning then. But as I started to feel better, it's just interesting. It started to come out, you know. So yeah, maybe it's just yeah, it's helpful for what you said.
Mm,
I
yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm sorry you went through that. Like, it's super challenging when the body is just not feeling well for a prolonged period of time. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you were always so spot on, saying, at least, yeah, like the doctors just don't know in so many cases, and they just did not know, you know. Uh, yeah, so
And it's a little better now.
yeah, I'm feeling like way better, overall health wise. I There was a kind of related trauma that required surgery in my leg, um, like this really weird condition, where the body was growing bone tissue inside of muscles tissues, and it
Mm.
was impinging on a nerve. So uh, yeah, I mean, they were able to resolve that through, or relieve it through, surgery, because I couldn't move my leg at all. Couldn't walk, couldn't put clothes on and off. I mean, it was very interesting challenge. But yeah, now I'm able to. I'm doing a lot of physical therapy. I just stopped using a cane, which is kind of a cool thing for me. And now I'm able to go out for kind of leisurely walk. So yeah, it's much, much better.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so nice to see you.
You too. Thanks. Thanks so much.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Hey, you too. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Really excited about the retreat. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, actually, I guess I'll start off kind of by talking about that because it was kind of noticed the other day when I found out about it, how much excitement started to arise, um, and, and lately I've been really noticing, a lot of my feelings, questioning questioning them. Um, and it's just starting to become more noticeable that they don't really belong to anyone, but they still arise. Like, I mean, yesterday, like, when I found out about the retreat, I got so excited, and there was lots of thoughts about, I guess, a lot of expectations and a lot of thoughts about, oh man, this is going to be great. And, this is this is going to be the death of me, and um, I'm going to get to meet so many great people, and there's just been so much loneliness here too. So like, so there's just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. It just takes me so much outside of this, and I could see instantly how much separation that just thinking that causes. Um,
That's beautiful.
and then, well, and it kind of made me sad because, um, I mean, it felt so good to
Mm,
feel that. I haven't felt that excited in a while.
mm.
Yeah, it's really sad actually, just to have to notice that, it's also very clear how much suffering that generates here and in the world. And but anyway, yeah, I mean, it's crazy how I mean, it feels like everything that I felt my entire life was just complete lie. And I mean, we're taught so much to trust our feelings, and um, but whose are they? Like, we have no, like, they weren't even mine to begin with.
Mm.
Just, it sucks just to
That makes
notice that, I mean, like, it's starting to become a lot more clear, but it's the feelings want to be held on to, I think, here still. I'm not willing to give up. It's really hard to give that up, to let that go, to let go of these feelings that I embrace so deeply throughout my entire life, or this whatever. Who's Yeah, I mean, uh, so yeah, it's just been that's been really heavy. There's just been a lot of contraction, um, a lot of laying on the couch, just kind of like curled up in a ball, and just like heavy contraction. Like, it is starting to be noticed a little bit. Like, it's not so personal anymore, but it isn't being noticed that it's not mine. It's just, it's just happening. It's just there, and but it's still not easy.
I know. It's not easy at
Deal
all. I know. And when you can get that little glimpse of pleasure, yeah, it makes sense that it just feels a lot nicer than the desertness of feeling
Yeah. Well,
alone.
it's like a release almost of just like it was a release of just all the suffering that I've been feeling lately.
Mm,
You know, um,
yeah. And why not enjoy it for what it is? Bigger picture, you understand the pleasure comes with the pain, but why not enjoy that feeling, if it's here?
I know. I think I'm really trying to control this through a non-dual lens. I think non-duality is starting to become like, the concepts that, are starting, like, I think a lot of sense of righteousness is coming through, a lot of feeling that this should be a holy thing is coming through, or that, but it's really not. Like, it's really starting to be seen that this is not about being perfect. This is not perfection. This is something else. Yeah, there's always this tendency to want to turn this into something similar to like religion or a belief. Like, yeah, I mean, and it's very easy to do, it seems, especially here.
Yeah, I would say that's common.
But yeah, I mean, there have been some really brief glimpses that kind of bring me out of it, out of the sense of a me, and which are always so nice. Yeah, I was walking around downtown the other day, and I was just looking up at all the buildings, and it was just so clear that it was just this.
Mm.
It was being clear, and and the fear, the sense of fear came back and just pulled me away, and I just don't know why I can't rest in that. So it's why would I fear that? What is, like, it's just there's just, I mean, I just don't understand why there's so much. I understand all the concepts, everything is so clear here, but it just doesn't understand. I just don't understand why there's still so much pain here and suffering. And I mean, it's way better than it used to be, but I'm just ready to rest. I'm just ready to. It's longed for more here now than ever. It's clear that there's never going to be a me again. There's never going to be someone here that will want or need anything or feel a sense of needing to know anything or to do anything. it's, it's all just a story in my mind. So yeah, I need this retreat, March.
Basically, I just need no,
Thank you for knowing that I need to know.
no, what you said was really beautiful. Beautifully described. I know that it's yeah, sometimes the suffering can feel even more unbearable because it really is you're feeling it for in a new way for the first time. It's different. It's full on. It's just there. It's highly uncomfortable and your body is not used to feeling it to that extent. So um of course it would be threatened. Of course it would feel fear.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I know it's gonna be okay.
I think one other thing that had to fall away from me was I shouldn't be suffering anymore. You know, that's like a marker. But I had to let go of that and see that I can't even define this as suffering anymore. I don't even know what that means. Um,
Yeah,
it's just here if it's here.
right. Yeah, it is. Hmm. It's yeah, I mean, it is feeling it differently somehow. Because I can still, like, like all these feelings that I thought were me are not really personal anymore, but I can still kind of sense that energetic feeling of low self-worth and or depression, or all these things that we label this suffering as. Um, it's still there's still remnants of it, feels like, but it's just very energetic. Um, um, they're a little sticky at times, but not nearly as much as they used to be. Um,
Yeah. I remember periods where feeling really wrong, like I couldn't really define it as low self-esteem anymore. It was just like I just felt wrong and bad. And there was just this like a rotten, twisted feeling inside.
yeah,
And so it was felt to a different degree. It was no longer just the label of it. It was more like, oh, I could feel the energetics of what that is, and it is unbearable. It feels like I'd rather die than feel this. I remember feeling that intensely. Um, and it had to come up that way to be seen in that way.
it's just so undeniably obvious that there never was anyone. Um, it's honestly crazy that it can still be believed. It still feels real in a sense, but I know that it's not. Like, conceptually, I know
I know it will feel more real than ever, though, because you're finally able to feel it.
it. Yeah, I've been feeling it for a while.
I know, I know. It it needs to come up. This is how it empties out of the body. It comes up more fully than ever before to be felt, because you were never able to feel it before. It was there and it was suppressed.
Yeah, and yeah, it's I've definitely not wanted to. I've kind of wanted to stay away from people, like, or just limit my time around other people, because
Mhm.
that seems to trigger it a lot. This and I think people, when they see me see me, they think, they I think they kind of pick up on a very low sense of self-worth and doubt, loneliness and neediness, and uh, so just so yeah, I mean, I've been really kind of avoiding a lot of interaction with people.
Mm.
And there's also been a lot of fear of people too. So like, and actually after the excitement kind of going to this retreat faded, fear of meeting other people even started to
Yeah.
arise again. So um,
Yeah, it makes sense that you would want to limit your exposure, because the body might feel overwhelmed,
hmm,
but in a way, it's also a good thing for you to be
yeah,
triggered and let that stuff up. Just
yeah.
small doses.
It's here lately. It's become easier actually just to be alone. Um, yeah, it's funny how the me relied so heavily upon others. Like, I was very social generally and had lots of friends all the time. Um, it's clear how they help to support this belief, or I use them maybe to support that. Um, to really strengthen the sense of a me. It's almost, I almost feel like it's needed from others, the validation to, I feel like if you just go alone somewhere and just live in a cave for the rest of your life, it would just it would just fall, because there's no one around to believe that there's someone here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that was beautifully expressed. I appreciate it.
But looking forward to seeing, hopefully, a lot of you in March.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't miss it. So you
Yeah.
can expect me there.
Cool. I'll give you a big hug.
Love your illusionary hugs.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris.
All right. Bye.
Hey, Debbie.
Suzanne, I just want to throw my hat in the ring that let me just make you speaker so I'm not like all distracted.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
With Chris, nice to see you. I'm like just whatever, selfing along, but really like excited about the retreat. And
Oh,
my
nice.
husband, yeah, he thinks waking up is made up. He's just like, he's not interested, and that's cool. You know, he just lets me do what I want to do. But I said, I could fly down there, or we could turn this into a road trip and take the dog and find an Airbnb. And so that's what it's turned into. So it's kind of cool, yeah. So like I'll be like 15 minutes away and then just come for the your thing, and then go back home. And
Oh, nice.
and it's a place that has goats that you can feed and all this thing. So
Oh, really?
anyway,
That's cool.
yeah, pretty excited.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So your husband he won't take part in it, but he'll just like hang around.
Yeah, he'll stay back with the dog. He can feed the goats and,
Cute.
hike around. And
Yeah, it looks like a
yeah,
nice, just quiet area.
yeah. So anyway, thank you. That's just all I wanted to say. Just, kind of
Oh,
say hello and tell Chris I'll see him there too.
oh, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's very
Look forward to meeting you, Debbie.
sweet.
Okay, same here, Chris. Thank you.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing, Debbie. Hi, Yotam.
Hi,
Hi, good to see you.
nice to see you. Um, I thought it would be nice to see you and meet you, and to tell a little bit about what I'm going through. And maybe hear some of your yeah. So I live in Israel, and yeah, and it creates like being in a country that is in war. It creates many tensions from many places and weird situations. So I'm pretty young, so like most of my friends are in the army, and I'm luckily not. But means I'm pretty lonely at this weird time. I'm in my hometown. Yeah. Something that I feel is a lot of difficult emotions and feelings, and also not like having the resources to like be with myself. So it's so difficult, and I feel so I don't have space to hold it. So I the only thing that I can do is to run away. Like, it just doesn't feel right even to stay with it. It's just maybe too much. So maybe I would like to ask you about this kind of thing, about, like not having the spiritually seemingly right option. You know what I mean? Sometimes I do. For example, I was very frustrated and not in ease, and then I joined this Zoom, something calm now. But most of the time, it's a lot of screen time and distractions. And that's what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's nice to sort of change the environment if it feels not right or highly uncomfortable. That's not always possible, but it would make sense that you feel exactly the way you do. So you're not wrong for feeling that way. You're not wrong for wanting some comfort in little distractions, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong in that.
On another note, if I were in the USA, I would definitely want to come to the retreat. It's central. If you're ever gonna come to Europe, I'll totally come.
Oh, cool. Yeah, maybe one day. Yeah, I understand it's difficult and lonely. I'm happy to just be here with you. Could just notice what's happening in the body, the thoughts. It's all okay.
What came up also now is the thought that I'm having a lot, and it's like seeing. Also, there's like questions of what do I want to do with my life, and it's not so very related to what I said earlier, but I'm working in agriculture around my village where I live. And it's like okay, but all of this frustration and loneliness, and yeah, there's kind of practical voices that are seemingly a lot.
That sounds pretty cool that you're working in agriculture.
There's nice things to it too.
Mm.
Avocado field.
Ah, there's no rush. You're very young. Just have fun with life. Every experience is great. Working in agriculture, I've always wanted to do that, but I never did. Life isn't about how much money you make or what your title is. It's about, does it feel right now in the circumstance that you're in? Maybe this just makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's like, yeah, it does. Also, on the thing, something about like paths of spirituality, and like the radical non-dual path. And yesterday, I went to like a Buddhist 1 day practicing day with a Buddhist teacher, a lot of meditation. And I felt that something in me, it doesn't want this, doesn't want the teaching or I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but it's kind of a difficulty with trusting my heart and only trusting my heart in a way. I kind of want to do that, but I'm afraid to do that. And
That makes sense. Take little steps. Don't be harsh on yourself because we're all so used to not trusting ourselves. So
yeah,
we can't expect to just fully trust ourselves all of a sudden. But it makes sense that you might not resonate with like definitive practices.
I used to,
Hmm?
but I don't. I used to.
What do you think would be good for you?
In what context?
Just to help you maybe ground.
What do you mean? Like now?
Yeah, based on your circumstance, it makes sense that there might be a lot of doubts about where you're at and what you're doing.
Okay, I think that um, I have a lot of voices from students, but maybe that part that that I might call the heart would say that um, just just being stuck, like not knowing, not seeing the light, just like continuing to live day by day, and, doing what feels good. Yeah.
That sounds good. You know, it's equally okay to feel discomfort. Life isn't about just feeling the good feelings. You're
But
gonna.
sometimes it's very uncomfortable.
Mm. The thing is, life is never really the way that we want. Sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes it isn't. And so it's understandable if we're disappointed.
Suzanne, do you want to end?
If you have something else to say, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want you to know that how you feel is understandable. You're not wrong for feeling the way that you do. Well, it's really nice to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for thanks for joining. Thanks for the wonderful interactions. I appreciate you all. You're so lovely. All right, have a really good Sunday. Oh yeah, I'll see you December 17th. I'm gonna go visit my friend that I basically kind of died with in the UK. Yeah, I'm excited. I'll tell you guys about it. Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Exciting. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank-
you.